My name is Diana Bellamy. I'm 26 years old. The night before my Yale Medical School interview, my younger sister Juliet poured an entire bottle of bleach down the front of my only blazer while smiling right at me. I stood there frozen. My mother didn't even look up from her phone and said coldly, "Stop making a scene, Diana. It's just a jacket. You're always so dramatic." My father added, "Your sister is going through enough. Don't ruin this for her. I wore that ruined blazer anyway." 6 hours later, I sat across from the dean of admissions. He stared at the bleach stain, then at my last name, and his face changed completely. He reached into his desk drawer, pulled out a folded piece of paper, and said with disbelief, "Wait, you're here?" What my family tried so hard to erase was about to be the very thing that destroyed everything they built. If you have ever been the daughter your family decided to make Maller, this story is for you, like the video. Subscribe if you want the rest and tell me in the comments where you are watching from. Now let me start from the beginning. I grew up in a 5-bedroom colonial in Wellesley, Massachusetts. My father, Lincoln Bellamy, was a managing director at one of the older asset management firms in Boston. My mother, Bridget, sat on 3 charity boards and on the trustee committee of the Boston Symphony Orchestra. From the outside, we looked like the kind of family the local newspaper covered every spring when they ran their photographs of the Wellesley Garden Tour. I was the older daughter. Juliet came 3 years later when I was 3. From the day she was born, my mother spoke about her differently. Juliet had the right kind of face. Juliet had the right kind of laugh. Juliet had the temperament that people remember. I remember a piano recital when I was 11. I had practiced for 4 months. I played the piece I had been working on without missing a note. When I came off stage, my mother kissed me on the forehead and said, "You played well, Diana." But Juliet has the kind of face people want to remember. Let her have the spotlight tonight. Juliet was 8 and had not played the piano in over a year. That was how it worked in our house. When I was 10, I opened the second drawer of my mother's dresser looking for a pair of stockings. She caught me. She did not raise her voice. She closed the drawer slowly and said, "Diana, my drawer is private. I don't go through your things. You don't go through mine. That is how this house works. I never opened that drawer again until I was 27. You will hear about that later." When I was 16, I sat at the dinner table and said for the first time out loud that I wanted to be a doctor. My father set down his fork. My mother smiled at me the way you smile at a child who has just announced they are going to be an astronaut. The next week at a charity event in Brooklyn, I heard my mother tell a friend, "Juliet wants to be a pediatrician." Isn't that wonderful? She has always loved children. Juliet was 16. A week after that, my father came into my room. He sat on the edge of my bed and said, "Diana, medicine is a long road. Your sister has the temperament for it. You are better suited to support roles. That is not an insult. That is an observation." He believed he was being kind. By the time I was 16, I understood what they had decided. They had decided which daughter would be the doctor. They had simply forgotten to tell me. I applied to Tufts on my own. I wrote the essays without showing them. I got in. I told my parents in the kitchen, and my mother said, "Tufts is fine. It's not a school we brag about, but it's fine." My father said, "Don't expect me to pay for medical school after this. Your sister is the one we're saving for." I started TUS in September of 2017. I worked 2 jobs through college. I took on debt. I did not invite my parents to a single visiting weekend in 4 years. In May of 2022, I graduated with honors in biology. I drove to a small 1-bedroom in Brooklyn, signed a lease for $1,850 a month, and started work 3 weeks later as a patient navigator with the Joint Pediatric Oncology Program at Dana-Farber and Boston Children's Hospital. My job was to walk with families through the system, to translate, to be present. The starting salary was $58,000 a year. My mother, when I told her, asked, "Patient navigator, isn't that more of a volunteer thing? Are they actually paying you?" I had been working there for 3 months when I was paged to room 4B on the pediatric oncology floor. That was the day I met Lily. Meanwhile, 3 years behind me, Juliet had entered Wellesley College in September of 2021. My mother managed her path the way she managed her charity calendars. There was a private MCAT tutor at $13,500. There was a personal admissions consultant in Cambridge. There were arranged shadowing opportunities through donor connections. There were anatomy textbooks bought in advance and left on her shelves like decoration. My mother told her friends at dinner parties that Juliet had been shadowing at Boston Children's for over a year and that she had such a gift with children. I had pulled the visitor badge log later. Juliet had been on the pediatric oncology floor exactly 4 times in 3 years. Total time 5 hours and 22 minutes. I had logged 3,200 hours. Only one of us would be told that those numbers mattered, and it would not be told by my mother. I want to tell you about Lily before I tell you anything else. Her name was Lily Donovan. She was 7 years old when she was diagnosed with B-cell acute lymphoblastic leukemia in August of 2022. Her mother, Sophia, was 38, a housekeeping supervisor at a Cambridge hotel. Sophia had immigrated from Honduras in 2010. Her husband, Patrick Donovan, had been a delivery driver from South Boston. He had been killed on I-93 by a drunk driver in 2018 when Lily was 3. Sophia had been raising Lily alone for 5 years when the diagnosis came. The first day I walked into room 4B, Sophia was crying very quietly in the corner. Lily was sitting up in the bed with her hands folded like she was at church. Sophia's English was strong for conversation, but the oncology team had just left after explaining induction protocol, and the words had moved too fast. Sophia did not know what induction meant. Lily thought they were going to put her to sleep forever. I sat on the edge of the bed and switched to Spanish. I told Sophia that induction was the first month of treatment, the strongest month, the one that would either get Lily into remission or tell us what kind of fight we were in. I told Lily that no one was going to put her to sleep forever. I told her she was going to be very tired for a while. But tired is not gone. Tired is still here. When I stood up to leave that night, Lily reached out from the bed and took my hand. She did not say anything. She just held it. I did not know it then, but she had decided something about me. I came back the next day, then every day for a week, then 4 to 6 hours a week outside my official caseload for 2.5 years. I read her Charlotte's Web in the chemo room. She loved the chapter where Charlotte writes some pig into the web. One afternoon, halfway through the chapter, she said, "Diana, maybe someone will write something nice about me one day." I told her, of course they would. I did not know I was hearing her plan out loud. Her window faced east. Her room had been assigned by lottery, but she treated it like a gift. Even on mornings when she could not eat, she watched the sunrise. In April of 2023, after a stretch of 2 days when she had not been able to keep anything down, she watched the sun come up and turned to me and said, "Diana, the sun came up again. I made it. I'm still here." I wrote that down later. I wrote down the way her window faced east and how she watched the sunrise even when she couldn't eat. I wrote it down in a draft of a personal statement on a Tuesday in April of 2024 in a document I kept on the family Google Drive my mother had set up in 2017. I did not know yet that anyone else read what I saved there. In June of 2023, Lily relapsed. She was 8. The bone marrow transplant we had been hoping for never happened. The donor matches were not close enough. Through 2024, she got thinner. By September, hospice had been initiated. Her attending oncologist was Dr. Betrayal Nell, a German-trained pediatric hematologist who had been at Boston Children's for 19 years. Dr. Nell was the one who told Sophia in October that there were no more options. Dr. Nell was also the one Sophia would later hand a folded letter to. My supervisor was Ingrid Sandberg, a senior pediatric oncology social worker who'd been at Dana-Farber for 24 years. Ingrid watched me with Lily for 2.5 years. Lily's primary nurse was Kelsey Rarin, who had been on the floor for 15 years. Kelsey wrote in the clinical handoff notes 38 separate times, "Family coping enhanced by Navigator E. Bellamy presence." In October of 2024, Lily was very weak, but very lucid. 2 weeks before she died, she asked her mother to write a letter for her. Sophia wrote in pencil, in her own handwriting, exactly what Lily said. The letter was 1 page. It would matter more than any document my family had ever produced. A week later, on October 17th, 2024, Sophia handed that letter to Dr. Nell during morning rounds and said, "Please give this to someone who can help Diana be a doctor." The next day, October 18th, Boston Children's held its annual Donor Appreciation Luncheon. Oncology families were invited to thank the donors. Sophia attended. So did my mother, who was a trustee on one of the Boston foundations that funded the program. They had never met. Sophia recognized Bridget from a photograph I had once shown her on my phone of my family at Christmas. Sophia approached her, introduced herself, and said, "I have something for Diana." She handed my mother a folded piece of paper, a drawing. Lily had made it with hospital sketch paper and a number 2 pencil. On the back, in shaky handwriting, were 5 words. My mother said she would deliver it that night. She did not deliver it. I would not see that drawing for 14 months. The day after the luncheon, Dr. Nell forwarded Lily's letter to a man who had trained with her at Boston Children's in the early 2000s. His name was Dr. Hudson Marlowe. He had moved to Yale School of Medicine in 2018 and become Dean of Admissions in 2022. Dr. Nell's note to him was 1 sentence: "For when this applicant arrives." B. Marlowe put the letter in his desk drawer. Lily died in early November. I went to her funeral. So did Sophia. So did Kelsey. So did Ingrid. My parents did not. My sister did not. 3 weeks later, Sophia came to my apartment in Brooklyn carrying a navy wool blend blazer and a garment bag. She told me it had been hers from a job interview years before, that she had not worn it since Patrick died, and that she wanted me to wear it to my medical school interviews. Peru and Travista, Micello, she said, "Lily would want you to wear something with strength in it." I had no way of knowing then that Lily was already writing the future I didn't see yet. I had not planned to apply for the 2024 cycle. I had told my supervisor in early 2024 that I wanted to stay with Lily through the end. Ingrid had said, "That is a hard choice. That is also a doctor's choice. Make sure you can come back from it." I drafted a personal statement in April of 2024 anyway, knowing I would not submit it until the following year. I wrote it on a Tuesday afternoon. I saved it on the family Google Drive because that was where I had saved every important document since high school. I wrote about Lily by name. I wrote about Sophia. I wrote about her window facing east. I wrote about the sentence I had said to her in Spanish on the first night we met. I closed the document in the evening and forgot about it. I did not know that 12 nights later in the morning, my mother had opened the file. I did not know that 13 minutes after she opened it, she had texted my father about it. I did not know that less than 4 weeks later, my sister Juliet would submit her own application to Yale School of Medicine with my words inside her essay. Juliet was accepted in March of 2025. She matriculated in August. By February of 2026, she had completed 8 months as a first-year medical student at the same school I was about to interview at. I submitted my application in October of 2025. I received the interview invitation in January of 2026. The interview was scheduled for Monday, February 16th. My mother called me the Thursday before. She said, "Come home Saturday night. Your father is making his pasta. We want a family dinner before your big day." I had not been back to Wellesley in 11 months. I said yes, I would not have, except I thought a family dinner before a moment that important meant something. I drove from Brooklyn on Saturday afternoon, February 14th, 2026. I hung the blazer in the closet of my old bedroom, which my mother had half converted into a home office. Lincoln met me at the door and said, "Diana, good of you to come. Juliet is home for the weekend, too, from Yale." Dinner was cold in the way that dinners can be cold without anyone raising their voice. Bridget asked Juliet about her M1 grades. Lincoln poured wine. When I mentioned the interview, Bridget said, "Yes, we'll see how it goes. Yale isn't for everyone." Juliet set down her fork and looked at me for the first time all night. She said, "You know I'm there now. You know what that means?" I did not answer. After dessert, I went upstairs and brought the blazer down. I wanted to steam it for Monday morning. The laundry room opened off the kitchen with a doorway into the family room where everyone was still sitting on the couches. I laid the blazer on the ironing board. I plugged the iron in. I turned my back for 8 seconds to fill the spray bottle at the sink. When I turned around, Juliet was standing in the doorway with a gallon bottle of Clorox bleach. The cap was off. She walked to the ironing board, lifted the bottle, and poured it down the front of the blazer. She did not stop until the bottle was nearly empty. The wool absorbed it. The bleach hissed against the warm iron. The stain bloomed orange and yellow across the navy fabric 18 inches long. She looked up at me and smiled. My mother from the couch did not lift her eyes from her phone. "Stop making a scene, Diana. It's just a jacket. You're always so dramatic." My father, half a glass of wine in, said, "Your sister is going through enough. Don't ruin this for her." I stood there with the iron still hot in my hand. I did not turn it off for a long time. I did not yell. I did not cry. I did not throw anything. I had spent years before that night imagining what I would do if my family ever crossed a final line. I had imagined every kind of scene. What I had not imagined was that when the line was crossed, I would simply turn the iron off, fold the blazer over my arm, and walk upstairs. Juliet returned to the couch. Bridget did not look up. Lincoln poured Bridget another glass. I sat on the edge of my old bed for 40 minutes with the blazer in my lap. The orange stain was already cooling into something permanent. I did not try to rinse it. I knew I could not save it. I had used enough hospital laundry products to know what bleach did to wool. Then I noticed something. Juliet had not done this because she was angry. She had done this because she was afraid. I did not yet know of what. I slept 4 hours. On Monday morning, I came down the stairs in the bleached blazer. The house was dark. My parents were not awake. Juliet was not awake. I did not leave a note. I drove 135 miles to New Haven in silence. I crossed Hartford. I crossed Meriden. The sun came up over my left shoulder, somewhere outside Wallingford. For the first time in 14 months, I cried. I let myself cry for 30 seconds. Then I stopped, and I kept driving. I parked at the Sterling Hall of Medicine I had 3 letters of recommendation in a folder. I had a personal statement I had rewritten 6 times. I had a bleached blazer and a quiet morning behind me. I had no idea that the man who would interview me had been waiting 14 months to meet me. The admissions assistant checked me in at the front desk. There were 8 applicants that day. Each of us had 3 interview slots, 10, and my first was Dr. Phoebe Linwood, Associate Dean of Student Affairs. My second was Dr. Hudson Marlowe, Dean of Admissions. My third was Dr. Reed Larkin, Director of Admissions Operations. The assistant looked at her screen and added almost in passing, "Your second interview is with Dr. Marlowe. He requested this slot specifically. That happens occasionally." I noted it. I did not understand it yet. Linwood interviewed me first. She was warm in a professional way. She asked about my clinical experience. I told her about Dana-Farber and Boston Children's, about bilingual navigation, about the families. She made a small sound when I mentioned 3,200 hours. "That is not typical," she said. "Most candidates have under 1,000. She did not mention the bleach on my blazer. I had decided I would not bring it up unless someone asked. I walked out of Linwood's office I had 15 minutes. I spent 8 of them in the women's bathroom in front of the mirror looking at the stain and deciding what I would say if Marlo asked. I decided I would say the truth, the whole truth, not a softened version. At D, I knocked on Marlo's door. His office was wood-paneled. There were photographs of children's hospitals on his walls, 3 framed awards, a desk with 1 closed folder and 1 open laptop. He stood, shook my hand, and motioned me to a chair. He was 60 years old, gray-haired, soft-eyed, calm. He was silent for 5 seconds longer than was normal. He was looking at my blazer. He cleared his throat and said, "Miss Bellamy, tell me about a patient who changed how you think about medicine." I had prepared 3 different answers for this question. I used none of them. I told him about Lily. I told him her full name. I told him her diagnosis. I told him about Sophia, about Honduras, about Patrick. I told him about Charlotte's Web in the chemo room and about her window facing east. I told him what she had said the morning the sun came up after 2 days of NPO. I told him about the relapse, the hospice, the last weeks. I spoke for 6 minutes. He did not interrupt me. When I finished, he did not ask another question. He did not thank me. He stood. He walked to his desk drawer, the second drawer on the left. He opened it. He pulled out a thin folder. From inside the folder, he took out 1 folded piece of paper. He set the paper on his desk. He did not turn it toward me yet. "Miss Bellamy," he said, "I want to be sure I am hearing what I think I am hearing. Lily Donovan B cell, all diagnosed August 2022. Treated at Boston Children's. Mother Sophia, father deceased, window facing east, Charlotte's Web. You are that Diana?" I said, "Yes." He sat back down. He looked at the bleach on my blazer. He looked at the name on the file on his laptop. He looked at me. Then, "I have been waiting 14 months to meet you." He paused. "Wait, you're her?" He turned the paper around. I recognized the handwriting before I read the first word. The accents were still there over the Spanish words. The slope of the letters was the same as the slope of every note Sophia had ever written me about Lily's appointments. It was Lily's voice in her mother's hand. Marlo read it aloud, slowly without performance. "To the people who pick who is a doctor, please pick Diana Bellamy." She held my hand when I was scared. She told them my words in Spanish when my mommy did not know the English. She read me Charlotte's Web in the chemo room. She is already a doctor in the ways that matter. Please. Lily Donovan, age 9. He set the letter down. He folded his hands. "This came to me through Dr. Beatrice Nell at Boston Children's on October 18th, 2024. Dr. Nell and I trained together in the early 2000s. She forwarded it to me with 1 line for when this applicant arrives. I did not know when you would arrive. I did not know if Lily had survived. I learned that part later. This letter has been in that drawer for 14 months. He let the silence sit. Then he said, "Miss Bellamy, there is a second piece of evidence in your file that I cannot legally show you in this room. It was submitted by a third party, but I can tell you this. Someone else in your family used elements of Lily Donovan's story in their own application essay to this school last year. I noticed the overlap when your statement arrived this fall. I have been waiting to meet you to understand which version of the story is true. I held very still. I did not speak. He stood again. You have 1 more interview at... Please take it as scheduled. After today, I will be in touch. There is a formal process for what happens next. I want to walk you through it properly." He held the door for me as I left. I walked out of Sterling Hall I had 82 minutes before my next interview. I sat on a bench under a leafless oak tree in the courtyard. I tried to think of who in my family had been reading the drafts I kept on the family Google Drive. I already knew. I drove back to Brooklyn that afternoon at a slower speed than I had driven down. I called Ingrid Sandberg from the road. She picked up on the 3rd ring. I said, "IGNG, I need to ask you a question. Did you ever know that Juliet, my sister, claimed to have shadowed at Boston Children's? There was a pause. Diana Ingrid said she never set foot in our unit for more than 90 minutes at a stretch, 4 times in 3 years. I keep records of every observer who comes onto the floor. Why are you asking me this now? I told her I would call her back. I had one more call to make first. I dialed my mother. She picked up cheerful the way she always picked up when she was performing for someone who wasn't there. Diana, sweetheart, how did it go? I did not answer that question. I said, Mom, did Juliet write about Lily Donovan in her Yale application essay? The silence was 4 seconds long. 4 seconds is a long time on a phone call. My mother's reflexes were too fast. Her surprise was too slow. Diana, she said, what are you talking about? I did not say Lily's last name. My mother did not ask who Lily was. My mother did not ask why I was asking. My mother said, you are exhausted. Come home tonight. We will talk. I said, no, I am going to my apartment. I will call you when I'm ready. I hung up. My mother had known the name. I had never told her. At that night, I received an email from Marlowe sent to my verified application address. Ms. Bellamy, thank you for your candor today. I would like to schedule a follow-up conversation. I am prepared to walk you through the formal options available to you, including a complaint to the Yale School of Medicine Committee on honor and professionalism. This is the body that handles academic integrity matters within the school. I will also need a written statement from you regarding your professional relationship with Lily Donovan and her family, if you are willing to provide one. I will also reach out to Dr. Beatrix Nell at Boston Children's to confirm the chain of custody of the letter. Please confirm a time within the next 10 days. Hudson Marlowe, MD, Dean of Admissions. He attached a 1-page summary of the committee's process. Complaint filed and reviewed in 2 weeks. Investigation in 4 to 6 weeks. Formal hearing. Decision. I scheduled the meeting for March 3rd. That gave me 2 weeks to find every piece of paper my mother had ever touched. I sat on the floor of my apartment with my laptop and a yellow legal pad. I opened the family Google Drive. I went to my personal statement draft, the one I had written in April of 2024. I clicked on version history. The document had been modified 23 times between March 14th, 2024 and May 12th, 2024. All by me. There was one access entry that did not match my pattern. May 14th, 2024, 28 in the morning. Account Bridget Bellamy. No edits. Just viewed. I wrote on the yellow legal pad. Patient Navigator Log. Ingrid will pull. Boston Children's Badge Log. Juliet Hospital Security will pull my draft personal statement. Google Drive version history. Juliet submitted Yale essay. Committee can request. My mother's text messages, only if Lincoln will hand them over. The drawing. Where is the drawing? There was one part of the file Marlowe could not show me, a part written by my mother. I would have to find that one myself. The honor committee process began on March 4th. I drafted a formal request and sent it to Marlowe. I asked the committee to compare my submitted personal statement from the 2025 cycle with Juliet's submitted personal statement from the 2024 cycle. Specifically, the paragraphs referencing a pediatric oncology patient. I attached my original draft document from spring 2024 with Google Drive version history showing my authorship dates. Marlowe replied within 18 hours. The request had been received. The committee had authority to perform the comparison under Section 4.2 of the Honor Code. The process would begin Monday. I had set something in motion that I could no longer take back. I did not want to take it back. That same week, Ingrid sent me 3 files. She had requested the records on Monday morning through hospital security under the Internal Volunteer Coordination Audit Policy. She had been at Boston Children's 24 years. They trusted her. The first file was my patient navigator log, 3,200 total hours across my caseload. 1,180 of those hours were specifically with Lily Donovan and her mother. Bedside reading, translation, family conferences, hospice support. After hours visits I had logged because I had been trained never to leave navigator time unaccounted for. The second file was the visitor badge log for Juliet Bellamy, 4 entries. Total cumulative time, 5 hours and 22 minutes across 3 years. Visit 1, April 23, 2022. Before Lily had ever been admitted. Visit 2, November 12th, 2022. On the floor, but never in Lily's room. Visit 3, May 6th, 2023. Brief, never in Lily's room. Visit 4, February 18th, 2024. Brief, never in Lily's room. Juliet had never met Lily Donovan. The third file was Kelsey Rearon's clinical handoff notes, 38 entries referencing my presence with the family. Ingrid attached a note to the package. Diana, I have been a social worker for 24 years. I have seen many things. This is among the cleanest contrasts I have ever pulled from our records. Use it carefully. Use it once. 5 hours and 22 minutes. That was the entirety of the relationship my sister had claimed. In early March, Marlowe called me on the phone. The call lasted 9 minutes. He spoke in the same procedural tone he had used in his office. Ms. Bellamy, the committee has completed its comparison of the 2 essays. The overlap is substantial. Specifically, the phrase, "her window faced east and she watched the sunrise even when she couldn't eat," appears verbatim in your sister's submitted essay. The probability of 2 siblings independently writing that sentence about the same patient is, in our view, 0. The committee will require one more piece of evidence before escalating to a formal hearing. Is there anything else in your family's possession? Anything physical connected to Lily Donovan? I knew the answer. I just did not know where it was yet. I called Sophia that night. I had not called her in 4 months. She picked up nervous the way she always picked up when she did not recognize the number on the screen, but recognized the name. "Sophia," I said, "I need to ask you something. Did you ever meet my mother in person?" The silence was very long. "See? Diana Unaves, October before Lily passed. There was a charity day at the hospital, a donor lunch. Your mother was there. I recognized her name because you had mentioned her. I went up to her and I said, 'I have something for Diana.' She told me she would deliver it to you that evening. I gave her the drawing Lily made for you. I asked her to describe the drawing. She said it was pencil on a hospital sketchpad page. It showed me sitting in a chair beside Lily's bed, holding her hand. On the back, Lily had written in her own shaky handwriting 5 words for when you graduate. Lily, age 9. I said, 'Sophia, I never got it.' There was a longer silence. She started crying very quietly into the phone. She said, 'Milo, I thought you had it. All this time, I thought you had it.' I stayed on the phone with her for 45 minutes. I told her what was happening. I told her about the Yale committee, about Juliet's essay, about the letter Marlowe had in his desk. She listened without speaking. At the end, she said, 'What do you need me to do?' I told her I would call her back. There was something I had to do first. On the evening of March 30th, my father called me. He had not called me in 14 months. His voice was. He said, 'Diana, I need to see you. Not your mother, not your sister, just me. There are things I should have said years ago. There are things on my phone that you need to see.' We met at a small cafe in Brooklyn on the afternoon of April 1st. He looked thinner than I remembered. He set his phone on the table between us. He did not look at me. He looked at the table. 'I let her do this,' he said. 'I am not asking you to forgive me. I am asking you to know.' He unlocked his phone and turned it around. He opened a text thread between him and my mother. He scrolled to May 14th, 2024. I read it. May 14th, 2024. In the morning. Bridget, just read Diana's draft. The Lily paragraph is the strongest writing in our family. Juliet has nothing close to it. Should I send Juliet the draft? In the morning. Lincoln? Bridget, that's Diana's work. Bridget, Diana isn't applying this cycle. She's staying for hospice. Juliet applies June 1st. It's just helping Juliet have material. Diana will write something else next year. 621 Lincoln, 622. Bridget Lincoln. We have one shot to get one of them into Yale. Juliet's MCAT isn't strong enough on its own. This is parenting. There were 52 more messages in the thread over the following 10 months. Most of them were small reminders, coordinations. Some of them were about which clinical anecdotes Juliet should reference in her secondaries. 2 of them were about the fact that Diana might apply the following year and what to do about that. My father airdropped the entire thread to my phone. 52 screenshots plus a 142 voice memo he had recorded himself the night before in his car. He gave me the voice memo too. He said I should have said no. I said nothing. That is the same thing as saying yes. I left the cafe with everything I needed. That weekend on April 4th, my mother called me. She said, "Come home Sunday. Your father needs you here. This has gotten out of hand." I went home. I did not go for her. She opened the door with her arms folded. She said, "Diana, we can fix this. Drop the complaint. We can make this go away. Juliet doesn't deserve to have her future destroyed over a sentence." I asked her if I could use the upstairs bathroom. I walked past her. I walked up the stairs. I walked past my old bedroom. I walked into the master bedroom. I opened the second drawer of her dresser from the top. The same drawer she had told me when I was 10 was private. Underneath a stack of folded silk scarves, exactly where she had said her private things lived, was a folded piece of hospital sketchpad paper. I unfolded it. Pencil. A child holding the hand of a woman in scrubs. Both of them looking at each other on the back in shaky, penciled letters for when you graduate. Lily, age 9. I took a photograph of it where it lay. I closed the drawer. I put the original in the inner pocket of my coat. I went downstairs. The whole family was in the dining room. Juliet had been notified by the Yale committee on Friday that an investigation was open. Her face was streaked but practiced. My father was looking at his plate. My mother was looking at me. I put the sketch face up on the table. I said, "This was given to Mom on October 18th, 2024 by Sophia Donovan at the Boston Children's Donor Appreciation Luncheon. It was meant for me." Mom kept it in her dresser drawer, second from the top, under the silk scarves. The child who drew this was 9 years old. She died 3 weeks later. Her name was Lily. Juliet opened her mouth. "Diana, you don't understand." I cut her off. I did not raise my voice. I said, "Juliet, I have your essay. I have my draft. I have the badge log. I have Mom's texts to Dad. I have the sketch. I am not asking you to understand. I am telling you what is going to happen on Wednesday." My mother reached for the sketch. I put my hand on it. She pulled back. She said, "You have no idea what you're doing." I picked up the sketch. I held it where she could see it. I said, "Lily did. She knew before any of us." I walked out of the house. I did not look back. That night, I called Sophia. I asked her if she would be willing to testify at the Yale Honor Committee hearing on April 8th by video conference. She was quiet for 12 seconds. She said, "Milo, I will speak for Lily." I told her she did not have to. I had everything else. She said, "Lily wrote that letter so somebody would listen. I am the only one who heard her voice that day. I will speak." Then she said, "You wear the blazer, Diana. The bleach, too. Wear all of it." Lywood. On the evening of April 7th, the night before the hearing, Juliet called me. Her voice was broken but practiced. "Diana, please. I will lose everything. I will lose Yale. I will lose my future. I am 23 years old. I made a mistake." I said, "Juliet, you did not make a mistake. You wrote 5,000 words about a child you saw for less than 6 hours total. You watched her die from a paragraph our mother handed you. That is not a mistake. That is a decision you made over months." She said, "You don't have to do this tomorrow." I said, "Yes, I do." She hung up. I saved the call to my phone records. At last, my mother left me a voicemail. 4 minutes and 12 seconds. "Diana, listen to me. If you do this tomorrow, your sister will be dismissed from medical school. She will never become a doctor. Is that what Lily would want? Lily would want both of you to be doctors. Lily would want healing. You are the one tearing this family apart. Drop the complaint. It is not too late. Your father agrees with me. We can fix this. Adiki me. My father texted me separately. Your mother does not speak for me. Do what is right. I love you. I did not save my mother's voicemail to play in the meeting. I did not have to. I had already saved the only voice that mattered. I woke up on the morning of April 8th. I put on the bleached blazer. The orange-yellow stain had faded slightly from the steaming I had done 2 weeks earlier, but it was still visible against the navy from across a room. I packed my evidence folder. I drove 135 miles to New Haven. I texted Sophia from the parking lot I wrote, Sophia, almost time. Lily is here too. She wrote back, Sí, vamos. I walked into Sterling Hall Conference Room 3B. My sister was already at the table with our family attorney, Stanton Hargrove. The committee was assembling on the other side. My parents were in the hallway. They were not allowed in the room. The hearing was about to begin. The conference room held 6 people. On the committee side, Dr. Hudson Marlowe is chair, Dr. Phoebe Linwood, Dr. Reed Larkin. On the other side, Juliet with Stanton Harrove, seated behind her as advisor. A camera on a tripod recorded the proceedings. Ingrid Sandberg sat against the back wall as a professional reference for me. A laptop on a side table was connected to a secure video line. Sophia would join Marlowe opened. This is a FACT-F finding hearing under the Yale School of Medicine Committee on Honor and Professionalism, Section 4.2. 2 governing allegations of academic misrepresentation in admissions materials. Ms. Juliet Bellamy is the subject of this hearing. Ms. Diana Bellamy is the complainant. Counsel, Mr. Hargrove is present as advisor only and may not address the committee directly. The hearing will be recorded per committee protocol. Ms. Diana Bellamy, the complainant floor is yours. I set my evidence folder on the table. I opened it. I started with the numbers because the numbers did not have any emotion in them. Patient Navigator logged 3,200 total hours, 1180 hours specifically with Lily Donovan, 27 months. My signature on every entry. Boston Children's Visitor Badge Log, Juliet Bellamy. 4 visits, 5 hours, and 22 minutes total across 3 years. None of those visits occurred in Lily Donovan's room. Juliet never met her. Linwood wrote silently. Larkin looked at Juliet. Juliet did not look up. Hargrove tried to object. Marlowe held up his hand. Counselor, this is not a court. This is a hearing on academic integrity. Continue, Miss Bellamy. I did not raise my voice once. I would not need to. I placed 2 documents side by side on the table. My original draft from April 2024 with the Google Drive timestamp printed in the corner. Juliet submitted Yale essay from June 2024 provided by the committee. I underlined 1 sentence in red on both. My draft, April 14th, 2024. Her window faced east and she watched the sunrise even when she couldn't eat. Juliet's submission, June 11th, 2024. Same sentence, word for word. Larkin said, and the patient, did Miss Juliet Bellamy treat this patient? I said she visited the floor 4 times. She never met Lily Donovan. Juliet's hand pressed against her mouth. At me, Sophia's video connected. The audio was clear. Marlowe asked her to confirm the origin of Lily's letter. Sophia confirmed. She described the day she had written it. She described handing it to Dr. Nell. Marlowe then read the letter aloud slowly, the same way he had read it to me in his office 2 months earlier to the people who pick who is a doctor. Please pick Diana Bellamy. She held my hand when I was scared. She told them my words in Spanish when my mommy did not know the English. She read me Charlotte's Web in the chemo room. She's already a doctor in the ways that matter. Please, Lily Donovan, age 9. He placed the original letter face up on the table. The silence lasted 12 seconds. I counted. Juliet was crying now, not performing. Crying. Marlo asked Sophia if she wanted to add anything. She paused. Then she spoke slowly in English with one phrase of Spanish. My daughter, Lily. She loved Diana. She did not know who Juliet was. She never met Juliet. I never met Juliet until October 18th, 2024, when I went to a hospital event and I gave Mrs. Bellamy a drawing my daughter made for Diana. She told me she would deliver it. She did not. My daughter died believing Diana would receive it. Diana did not receive it until 5 days ago. I am here today because my daughter wrote a letter so somebody would listen. I am here so somebody listens. She disconnected at... I picked up the sketch from my folder. I placed it on the table. I said the patient drew this on October 16th, 2024. She gave it to her mother on October 17th. Sophia gave it to my mother on October 18th at the Boston Children's Donor Appreciation Luncheon. My mother did not deliver it. I found it 5 days ago in her dresser drawer, second from the top under a stack of folded scarves. I have photographic evidence of the location. Marlo picked up the sketch. He examined it. He passed it to Linwood. Linwood passed it to Larkin. Larkin nodded. Marlo turned to Juliet. Miss Juliet Bellamy, did your mother give you this sketch or any knowledge of its existence? Juliet, choking, said, I don't know. I never saw it. I never knew. Marlo said, the committee will request a separate interview with Bridget Bellamy as a fact witness. Then he called a 10-minute recess. I walked into the hallway. My parents were sitting on a bench against the wall. My mother stood up the moment she saw Juliet's tear-streaked face come out behind me. She rushed at us. What happened? What did they show in there? Juliet could not speak. Harrove tried to steer her into a side conference room. My father stood up. He took one step toward my mother. He said, Bridget, they have the sketch. My mother froze. My father said, you told me you forgot. You told me for 14 months you forgot. Don't. That was the word. One syllable in a Yale hallway in front of 3 strangers in front of Harrove in front of me. 30 years of marriage, and my father said one word to my mother for the first time. Don't. She stopped trying to follow Juliet. My father turned to me as he passed me on the way back to the bench. He said very quietly, I'm sorry. I should have done this years ago. I went back into the room. The committee was ready. When we reconvened, Juliet tried one last reframe. I was going through a hard time. My mother encouraged me. I should have said no, but I was 21 years old. Marlo let her finish. Then he spoke. Miss Juliet Bellamy, you were 21 years old when you submitted the application. You are 23 years old now. You have completed 8 months of medical school. At no point have you contacted the committee, the Donovan family, or the patient's care team to correct the record. The committee will consider these factors. Juliet had no rebuttal. Hargrove whispered to her. She shook her head. Marlo turned to me. Miss Bellamy, would you like to make a closing statement? I said yes. I did not attack. I did not raise my voice. I am not here to destroy my sister. I am not here to embarrass my parents. I am here because a 9-year-old wrote a letter so that I would be heard. I have been heard now. The committee will do what the committee does. I would like to enter into the record one final thing. Lily Donovan was a person. She had a name. She had a window that faced east. She had a mother who loved her. She had 2.5 years of treatment and 1 nurse and 1 social worker and 1 navigator who saw her through it. She did not have my sister. She did not have my parents. She had us, and we are still here. That is what this is about. I sat down. Marlo closed the folder. He looked at my sister and said, the committee will be in touch. Juliet finally stopped pretending. The room was so quiet that I could hear my mother breathing in the hallway through the closed door. I drove home that evening to Brooklyn. I did not cry. I had no tears left for that day. I made tea. I sat on the floor of my living room with my back against the couch. I texted Sophia one line. Thank you for speaking for her. She wrote back, Lily, always. On April 15th, I received an email from Yale Med Admissions. Dear Miss Bellamy, on behalf of the Admissions Committee of Yale School of Medicine, it is my privilege to offer you a position in the entering class matriculating in August 2026. Your file, your essay, and your interview reflected a candidate of extraordinary clinical insight and integrity. We hope you will accept. Hudson Marlowe, MD, the second read it twice. I did not cry. I texted Sophia. Yes, she wrote me hello. Lily knew. I accepted the offer the next morning. I told no one in my family for 4 days. On April 22nd, the Yale Committee on Honor and Professionalism delivered its decision. Juliet Bellamy was dismissed from Yale School of Medicine, effective immediately, for academic misrepresentation in admissions materials. The letter cited clear and convincing evidence of authorship fraud and willful failure to correct the record over an 8-month period as an enrolled student. My father called me that afternoon. He talked for 20 minutes. He did not ask me to reach out to Juliet. He said, I am separating from your mother. I have already signed a lease in the Back Bay. I have already paid the deposit. I am moving out on the 25th. I am not asking for forgiveness. I am asking for time to do the next part right. I would like to see you when you are ready. I told him I would see him. I did not say when. On April 23rd in the evening, my mother sent me one text. You destroyed your sister. I hope Yale is worth it. I screenshotted it. I did not reply. I did not block her. I left the text sitting in the thread. I had not destroyed anything. I had simply stopped holding it up. On Saturday, May 9th, I drove to Brighton. Sophia lived on the second floor of a brick walk-up off Commonwealth Avenue. She had moved there after Lily died because the apartment in Cambridge had too many ghosts in the hallway. The new place had 2 bedrooms and a kitchen with a small wooden table by the window. She had made sopadeo. There was a candle on the table. There was a small framed pencil drawing on the wall above the table. Sophia had framed it herself with a frame she had bought at Goodwill for $3.50. 50s. The drawing was the sketch. We ate. We talked about Lily. We talked about Yale. We talked about Patrick. We talked about what Sophia wanted to do when she had saved enough to leave the hotel. She was thinking about studying for her LPN. After lunch, she stood up and brought a small sewing kit to the table. Inside the kit were a spool of white embroidery thread, a small embroidery hoop, and a needle. She said, Diana Blazer. I asked her what we were doing. She just smiled. She said, Parali. She turned the blazer inside out. She opened the lining on the inside front near where the heart would sit when buttoned. With the embroidery hoop, she fixed the fabric in place. Then she threaded the needle with white thread. We worked in silence. Her stitches were careful, slow. I held the fabric taut. The light from the window crossed the table at an angle that did not move for 40 minutes. When she was finished, she cut the thread with a small pair of kitchen scissors. On the inside lining of my blazer in clean white embroidery was a single letter, L. She tied off the thread. She turned the blazer right side out again. She held it up to the window. The bleach stain was still there. The orange-yellow ghost of February still ran down the front of the navy wool. But now inside, where only I would know, was a letter that would never come out. She said, Now Lily is inside me shallow where no one can take her again. I said, Sophia, thank you. She said, No, gracias por escuchar. She also sewed a tiny matching L into the corner of her own kitchen apron so that we both had it so that on different mornings in different kitchens, Lily would be with both of us. I drove home that evening through a Boston sunset that ran orange along the Charles. The blazer was folded on the passenger seat in a garment bag. The framed sketch was on the floor of the back seat, wrapped in a soft cloth. I moved to New Haven on August 7th. The blazer will hang on a hook by the front door of my new apartment. The sketch will sit on the shelf above it. My mother said it was just a jacket. She was wrong about that. She was wrong about most things. The story she had built for our family was in the end just a story. The story Lily wrote in one page of pencil in her mother's hand on a hospital sketch pad. That was the one that turned out to be true. I will start medical school in 3 months. I will start it in a city my sister had to leave. I will start it with a sketch on my shelf and a letter sewn into the lining of a bleached blazer. Both of them belong to me now. Both of them belong to Lily.